Arrival on the Forbidden Planet. Aboard the sleek exploration vessel Galactic Pioneer, Commander Rhea stood on the observation deck, gazing at the swirling, ominous surface of the planet below. Known throughout the galaxy as vortexes, the planet had a reputation that sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned explorers. Rhea, a veteran commander with a history of successful missions, felt a knot of unease tighten in her stomach. The vessel's state-of-the-art technology hummed quietly around her, but the silence of the crew was deafening. Vortexes was a world synonymous with death. Its surface was a hellscape of turbulent storms, volcanic eruptions, and landscapes that shifted with seismic ferocity. Few had dared to venture here, and even fewer had returned. But Rhea's mission was different. This was not a mere exploration. It was a test of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. The mission: to establish a research outpost on the planet's surface and uncover the secrets of its deadly environment. As the ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, the view from the observation deck shifted from the vastness of space to the violent chaos below. Lightning storms danced across the sky, illuminating jagged mountain peaks and rivers of molten lava. Rhea's second-in-command, Lieutenant Thorne, approached her, his face as stoic as ever. "Commander, we are approaching the landing site. All systems are operational, and the crew is ready." Rhea nodded, her eyes never leaving the view outside. "Initiate landing sequence. Prepare for immediate disembarkation once we touch down. This planet won't give us any second chances." The Galactic Pioneer shuddered as it entered the planet's lower atmosphere, its hull glowing from the intense heat. Inside, the crew moved with precision, securing equipment and running final checks. Dr. Elara, the mission's chief scientist, was already deep in her analysis, her face lit by the glow of holographic displays showing environmental data. "Commander, the atmospheric composition is highly toxic, with levels of radiation that would be fatal without our protective gear," Elara reported. "But the flora and fauna are unlike anything we've ever seen. If we can harness their properties, it could revolutionize our understanding of biology." Rhea's expression remained serious. "Let's hope our gear holds up. We can't afford any mistakes." As the ship touched down, the landing gear deployed with a heavy thud, and the thrusters fired to stabilize the vessel on the uneven terrain. The doors to the airlock hissed open, revealing the harsh reality of vortexes. The air was thick with heat, and the ground beneath their feet seemed almost alive, pulsing with an unnatural energy. Rhea led the team out of the ship, their suits' environmental controls working overtime to shield them from the planet's extreme conditions. The team moved quickly, setting up a perimeter with energy barriers to keep the hostile wildlife at bay. Dr. Elara and her team began collecting samples, their instruments buzzing with data. "Commander, we've detected a structure approximately 5 kilometers from our location," Thorne announced, his voice tinged with surprise. "It appears to be of artificial origin." Rhea's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. This planet is supposed to be uninhabitable." Nevertheless, the readings are clear. It's there. Rhea considered their options. The mission was already dangerous, but this new development could change everything. If there was a structure on this planet, it meant someone, or something, had found a way to survive here. "Prepare a scouting team," Rhea ordered. "We'll investigate, but we proceed with extreme caution. This planet has already claimed too many lives, and I don't intend to add ours to the list." As the team prepared to venture into the unknown, a mixture of fear and determination hung in the air. The secrets of vortexes were waiting to be uncovered, and with them, the possibility of rewriting everything they knew about survival in the galaxy's most hostile environments. The enigmatic structure. The harsh terrain of vortexes was a test of endurance, each step forward a battle against the elements. Commander Rhea led the scouting team across jagged rocks and through thick, acrid fog that clung to their suits like a second skin. The structure that Thorne had detected loomed closer with every step, its shadowy outline barely visible through the dense atmosphere. "Steady," Ria's voice crackled through the team's communication system. "We don't know what we're dealing with yet." Beside her, Lieutenant Thorne adjusted the scanner strapped to his arm, his eyes fixed on the readings. "The energy signature is growing stronger. Whatever this structure is, it's still active." Dr. Elara, who had insisted on joining the scouting team despite Ria's reservations, moved with careful precision. This could be the key to understanding how life, or technology, could exist in such a hostile environment, she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Her curiosity was palpable, a sharp contrast to the tension in the air. As they approached, the structure took shape. A monolithic tower made of an unknown metallic substance that seemed to absorb the light around it. The surface was smooth and unblemished, devoid of any markings or symbols that might indicate its origin. It stood tall and defiant against the chaotic backdrop of vortexes, an enigma in the midst of chaos. "Scan for any signs of life or activity," Ria instructed. "Let's see what we're dealing with." Thorne activated the scanner, the device emitting a low hum as it processed the data. "No life forms detected," he reported, "but the structure is emitting a low-frequency signal, almost like a beacon." Ria frowned. A beacon? But for what or who? Dr. Elara stepped closer to the tower, her eyes wide with fascination. "This material, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost as if it's self-repairing. Whatever built this, it was far beyond our current technology." Ria's instincts screamed caution, but the potential for discovery was too great to ignore. "Let's find a way inside. If this structure is as advanced as it seems, there might be records or data that could help us understand this planet and survive it." After a thorough inspection, Thorne located what appeared to be an entrance, a seamless door that responded to his touch with a faint blue glow. The door slid open silently, revealing a dark interior that contrasted sharply with the planet's harsh exterior. The team exchanged wary glances before stepping inside. The interior of the structure was unexpectedly spacious, with walls that seemed to pulse with an internal energy. The air was cool and breathable, a stark contrast to the toxic atmosphere outside. Soft light emanated from the walls, illuminating a vast chamber filled with strange, crystalline formations that hummed with a gentle vibration. "This place is incredible," Dr. Elara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It's like stepping into another world." Ria remained on high alert, scanning the room for any signs of danger. "Stay focused. We don't know what's keeping this place operational or what might be hiding in the shadows." As they moved deeper into the structure, they came across a central console, an intricate alien device covered in glowing symbols. Dr. Elara immediately began examining it, her fingers dancing over the controls as she tried to decipher its purpose. "These symbols, they resemble a language, but not one I've ever encountered," she said, frustration creeping into her voice. "If I can just figure out the sequence." Suddenly, the console activated with a burst of light, and the walls of the chamber began to shift. The crystalline formations pulsed with increased intensity, and the chamber filled with a low, resonant hum that reverberated through their suits. "What's happening?" Thorne demanded, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. "I'm not sure," Elara replied, her voice tense. "I must have triggered something, but I don't know what." Before they could react, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It depicted a vast star map, with vortexes marked at its center. Surrounding the planet were symbols and pathways that suggested routes across the galaxy, routes that intersected at multiple points, all leading back to vortexes. Ria's eyes narrowed as she studied the map. This isn't just a beacon, it's a nexus, a hub of some kind. But why would it be centered on this planet? Ilara's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's like vortexes is the key to something much larger. But what that is, I can't even begin to guess." As the hologram shifted, it began displaying streams of data, complex algorithms, environmental readings, and most concerning of all, a countdown timer. That timer, It's counting down to something, Thorne observed, his voice laced with urgency. And I don't think we want to be here when it hits 0. Rhea nodded, her mind racing. We need to get back to the ship and figure out what we're dealing with. This planet just became a lot more dangerous than we anticipated. But as they turned to leave, the door they had entered through slammed shut with a deafening clang, sealing them inside. The countdown timer continued its relentless march towards 0, and the walls of the chamber began to pulse with a menacing energy. Rhea's voice was calm but firm as she gave her next order. Find another way out, and fast. We're not going to be this planet's next victims. As the team scrambled to find an escape, the reality of their situation sank in. They were no longer just explorers on a hostile world. They were trapped in a deadly puzzle with the clock ticking down. Whatever secrets vortexes held, they were about to be revealed in the most dangerous way possible. Race against time. The chamber pulsed with an eerie glow, the rhythmic hum of the countdown timer reverberating through the air. Commander Rhea's heart pounded in sync with the ominous vibrations, but she maintained her composure, her voice steady as she directed her team. Thorne, Elara, find another exit. We don't have much time. Her words were calm, but the urgency was unmistakable. Thorne was already on it, his scanner working overtime to detect any hidden passage or weakness in the structure. The energy readings were off the charts, indicating a massive buildup that suggested the structure might be powering up, or worse, preparing to detonate. Commander, this entire place is rigged with some kind of advanced energy field, Thorne reported, his fingers moving rapidly over the scanner. It's like nothing I've ever seen. We need to figure out how to disable it, or we're not getting out of here alive. Dr. Elara was at the central console, frantically trying to decode the alien symbols. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked, her mind racing to make sense of the advanced technology. These symbols, they're a mix of mathematical equations and an ancient language. If I can just understand the syntax, I might be able to reverse the activation sequence. But the countdown continued, each second slipping away like grains of sand in an hourglass. Rhea knew they were running out of time. Elara, focus on that console. Thorne, keep scanning for any structural weaknesses. We need an exit plan now. Thorne's scanner beeped, and his eyes widened as he read the data. Commander, I'm detecting a secondary chamber beneath us. It's connected to this one through a series of tunnels, but the entrance is concealed. I think it's our best shot. Good work, Rhea said, nodding to Elara. Can you override the console and get us access to that chamber? Elara's fingers flew over the alien controls, the holographic interface responding sluggishly. I'm trying, but this system is unbelievably complex. I can see the tunnel network, but it's locked behind layers of encryption. The pulsing of the walls grew more intense, the energy field within the structure escalating. The countdown ticked down relentlessly, now showing less than 10 minutes remaining. Elara, whatever you're doing, do it faster, Rhea urged, her voice tight with tension. We don't have time to crack the entire code, just get us to that chamber. Elara's brow furrowed in concentration. I'm bypassing the encryption, but I'll need to manually adjust the power flow to unlock the tunnel. If I divert too much, the whole structure could collapse on us. We don't have a choice, Rhea said firmly. Do it. Elara took a deep breath, then carefully rerouted the energy within the console, her hands trembling as she manipulated the delicate controls. The lights in the chamber flickered, and for a moment, it seemed as though the entire structure would implode. But then, with a soft hiss, a section of the floor slid open, revealing a narrow passageway leading down. Got it, Elara exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. The tunnel's open, but we need to move, now. Rhea didn't need to be told twice. Everyone, into the tunnel. Thorne, you first, I'll cover the rear. Thorne descended into the passageway, his weapon at the ready, scanning for any threats. The tunnel was tight, the walls close enough to scrape against their suits, but it led downward at a steep angle, away from the energy field above. As they moved deeper, the countdown echoed in their minds, each step bringing them closer to the unknown chamber, and they hoped, to safety. The passageway opened into a cavernous space below the main chamber, a vast, circular room illuminated by a soft, ambient glow. The energy readings here were even stronger, but the atmosphere was calmer, less chaotic than the chamber above. In the center of the room stood a massive, cylindrical device, its surface covered in the same alien symbols as the console above. Unlike the chaotic energy of the chamber they had just escaped, this device seemed to hum with a steady, controlled power. "What is this?" Thorn muttered, his eyes narrowing as he approached the device. "It's like a reactor, but on a scale I can't even begin to comprehend." Dr. Elara was already analyzing the symbols, her eyes darting across the surface of the device. "This is the heart of the structure. If we can figure out how it works, we might be able to stop the countdown, or at least delay it." Ria's mind raced as she assessed their options. "Elara, see if you can interface with it. Thorn, keep an eye on those readings. If the energy spikes again, we'll need to find another way out." Elara moved quickly, her fingers working over the alien console embedded in the device. The symbols responded to her touch, shifting and reconfiguring as she input commands. "It's like this device is a control hub for the entire structure. If I can stabilize the energy flow, we might be able to buy ourselves some time." The countdown was now dangerously close to 0. Less than 5 minutes remained. Feng's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, I'm detecting a surge in energy from the upper chamber. If we don't stabilize this device, the entire structure could go critical." "I'm almost there," Elara said, her voice tight with concentration. "Just a few more adjustments." The energy field within the device began to stabilize, the chaotic pulses evening out into a steady rhythm. The countdown slowed, the numbers ticking down at a more manageable pace. "That should buy us some time," Elara said, finally allowing herself to breathe. "But we're not out of the woods yet. The structure is still on a timer, and I can't shut it down completely." "How much time did we gain?" Ria asked, her eyes fixed on the countdown. "An hour, maybe 2, Elara replied. "But that's not enough to get off this planet. We need to find a way to deactivate the entire system, or get far enough away before it detonates." Ria nodded, her mind already calculating their next move. "We'll head back to the ship and regroup. If we can't deactivate the system from here, we'll have to find a way to escape the blast radius." As they turned to leave the chamber, the device in the center emitted a soft chime, followed by a holographic projection. The image that appeared was of a starship, sleek, advanced, and unlike anything they had ever seen before. It hovered above the surface of vortexes, surrounded by the same symbols that adorned the structure. Ria's eyes widened. "That ship, it's a match for the symbols we've been seeing. It might be our only way off this planet." Elara studied the projection, her mind racing. "If we can find that ship, it could hold the key to deactivating the system, or at least getting us out of here in one piece." "Then that's our new objective," Ria said, determination burning in her eyes. "We find that ship, and we use it to escape vortexes. Let's move, people. We're running out of time." With the countdown still ticking, the team made their way back up the narrow passageway, their minds focused on the holographic starship and the hope it represented. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew that humanity had faced worse and survived. As they emerged from the underground chamber, the storm outside raged on, but Ray's resolve was unshakable. They had a plan, however desperate it might be, and they were going to see it through to the end. Because that's what humans did. They fought, they endured, and they overcame, no matter how impossible the odds. The forgotten starship. The storm outside Vortex's ancient structure had grown fiercer, each gust of wind carrying with it the promise of imminent destruction. As the team emerged from the passageway, the holographic image of the mysterious starship lingered in their minds, a beacon of hope in the storm's chaos. Commander Rie tightened her grip on her weapon as she surveyed the desolate landscape. "We've got to move quickly. Thorn, are you getting any readings on that ship's location?" Thorn checked his scanner, the device flickering erratically in the storm. "The interference is heavy, but I'm picking up a faint energy signature about 2 clicks west of here. It matches the profile of the ship we saw in the projection." "That's our target," Rhea confirmed, her voice resolute. "We don't have time to waste. Ilara, how much time do we have left?" Ilara glanced at her wrist console, the countdown still ticking ominously. "Less than an hour. If that ship isn't functional, we'll be stranded here when the structure detonates." "Then let's hope it's in better shape than this place," Rhea said, motioning for the team to follow her. "Stay close and keep your eyes open. This planet's already thrown enough surprises at us." The team moved quickly through the storm, the howling wind and lashing rain making every step a struggle. The ground was treacherous, shifting beneath their feet as they navigated the rocky terrain. But they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that their only chance of survival lay in reaching the ship. As they neared the energy signature, the landscape began to change. The storm seemed to ease slightly, the winds dying down as they approached a series of jagged cliffs. Beyond the cliffs, a faint, shimmering light pierced the gloom, guiding them toward their destination. "There," Thorn shouted over the wind, pointing to the light. "That's got to be it." They quickened their pace, the adrenaline coursing through their veins as they rounded the final bend. And then suddenly, the starship came into view. It was massive, easily the size of a small city, and unlike any ship they had ever seen. Its sleek, angular design and alien architecture were both awe-inspiring and intimidating. The hull was made of material that seemed to shift colors in the dim light, giving the impression that the ship was alive. It was partially buried in the rocky terrain, as if it had crashed there long ago, but despite the damage, it still emitted a faint glow, a sign that some systems were still operational. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest as she took in the sight. "We might just have a chance," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. The team hurried toward the ship's entrance, a large hatch that was half buried under debris. Ilara's scanner beeped insistently as she approached the hatch, confirming that there was still power within the ship. "We're in luck," Ilara said, her voice laced with urgency. "There's just enough energy left to power the hatch. But we'll need to clear the debris first." With no time to spare, the team set to work, using their tools to remove the rocks and rubble that blocked their way. The storm had died down almost completely now, as if the planet itself was holding its breath, waiting to see if they would succeed. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the debris was cleared away. Rhea stepped forward and placed her hand on the hatch's control panel. The ancient mechanism sputtered to life, the hatch creaking open with a low groan. Inside, the ship was dark and cold, the air stale from centuries of disuse. But as the team's lights flickered on, they saw that the interior was surprisingly intact. The corridors were wide and lined with strange symbols and markings that none of them could decipher. It was clear that this ship was of a civilization far more advanced than any they had encountered before. "Stay alert," Rhea warned as they ventured deeper into the ship. "We don't know what's waiting for us in here." They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's remaining systems, a constant reminder that time was running out. After several tense minutes, they reached what appeared to be the ship's command center. The room was vast, dominated by a large central console surrounded by dozens of smaller terminals. A single chair, seemingly designed for a being far larger than any human, sat in the center of the room. Thorn moved quickly to the main console, his fingers flying over the controls. "It's still online," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "I might be able to power up the engines, but it's going to take some time." Rhea glanced at Ilara, who nodded grimly. "Do what you can, Thorn. We'll buy you as much time as we can." As Thorn worked to bring the ship back to life, The rest of the team spread out, securing the area and searching for anything that might be useful. But as the minutes ticked by, Rhea couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Do you hear that?" Ilara whispered, her hand hovering over her weapon. Rhea strained to listen, and then she heard it, a faint, rhythmic sound, like the distant thrum of machinery. It was coming from deeper within the ship, from a place they hadn't yet explored. "Thorn, how much longer?" Rhea asked, her voice tense. 5 more minutes, Thorn replied, not taking his eyes off the console. "I just need 5 more minutes." Rhea nodded, even though she knew they didn't have that much time. "Ilara, with me. Let's check it out." The two of them moved cautiously toward the source of the sound, their weapons at the ready. The ship's corridors twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the bowels of the vessel. The rhythmic thrum grew louder, more insistent, until it was almost deafening. And then suddenly they found the source. It was a massive chamber, filled with strange, pulsating machinery. In the center of the room was a large, glowing crystal, suspended in midair by some unknown force. The crystal pulsed in time with the rhythmic sound, sending out waves of energy that seemed to reverberate through the entire ship. "What the hell is that?" Ilara whispered, her eyes wide with awe. "I don't know," Rhea replied, her voice barely audible, "but I think it's powering the ship." As they stood there, transfixed by the sight, the crystal suddenly flared brighter, as if in response to their presence. The ship's systems began to hum louder, and the lights flickered on throughout the chamber. "We need to get back to Thorn," Rhea said, snapping out her daze. "Now." They turned and ran back to the command center, the ship's newfound energy pulsing through the walls. When they arrived, they found Thorn grinning from ear to ear. "I don't know what you did, but it worked," Thorn said, his hands flying over the controls. "The engines are coming online, and we should be able to lift off in just a few minutes." "Good," Rhea replied, her heart racing, "because I think we just woke something up." As if on cue, the ship's hull began to vibrate, the rhythmic thrum growing louder and more intense. The ground beneath them shook, and the lights flickered wildly. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Rhea shouted as the ship's engines roared to life. "We're getting out of here." With a deafening roar, the ancient starship lifted off the ground, breaking free from the planet's grip. The storm outside raged in fury, but the ship powered through it, rising higher and higher into the sky. As they broke through the atmosphere and into the cold void of space, Rhea finally allowed herself to breathe. They had made it. They had survived. But as she looked out at the vast expanse of stars, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of unknowns and unimaginable threats. And they had just scratched the surface. As the ancient starship stabilized in orbit, the hum of the engines settled into a low, steady rhythm. The team gathered in the command center, their faces illuminated by the dim glow of the console lights. Relief washed over them, but it was tempered by the gravity of their situation. They were now in control of a powerful and mysterious alien vessel, but their mission was far from complete. Thorn leaned back in the oversized command chair, his hands still poised over the controls. The ship's systems are operational, but we're only using a fraction of its power. There's a lot we don't understand yet. Rhea nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to figure out how to navigate this thing and set a course back to the fleet. If we can integrate this technology, it could turn the tide of the war." Ilara, who had been studying the strange symbols on the walls, turned to the group. "This ship is a relic of a civilization that's likely been gone for millennia. If we can decipher their language, we might unlock even more of its capabilities." "That's a big if," Thorn said, frowning. "We're not linguists, and this isn't exactly a standard code." Rhea considered their options. They were a small team with limited resources, stranded in an unknown part of space on a ship they barely understood. But they had come this far, and she wasn't about to back down now. "We'll figure it out," she said with determination. "We've faced worse odds before. We'll figure it out," she said with determination. "We've faced worse odds before." Just as she finished speaking, the ship's console beeped loudly, and a series of symbols flashed across the screen. Thorne's eyes widened as he tried to interpret the data. Guys, I think we've got company." On the main display, a holographic map of the surrounding space appeared, showing several large objects moving rapidly toward them. The symbols were unfamiliar, but their intent was clear. They were being targeted. "It's an ambush," Ilara said, drawing her weapon reflexively. "Not quite," Thorne replied, his voice tight with concentration. "Those aren't ships. They're probes, automated defense systems. They must have been triggered when we powered up the engines." Ria's mind raced as she assessed the situation. The ancient starship was powerful, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. They needed to act fast. "Can we outrun them?" Ria asked. Thorne shook his head. "Not in our current state. We need more power, but I'm hesitant to tap into the core without knowing what we're dealing with." Ilara scanned the readings. "We might not have a choice. If those probes reach us, they'll tear this ship apart." Ria took a deep breath, making a decision. "Thorne, tap into the core. We'll need every bit of power we can get. Ilara, prepare to activate the ship's defenses, whatever they might be." Thorne hesitated for a moment, then nodded. His fingers flew over the console as he accessed the ship's power systems. The lights in the command center flickered as the energy levels surged, and the entire ship seemed to vibrate with newfound intensity. "Core is online," Thorne reported, his voice tense. "I'm diverting power to the engines and shields." Ilara, meanwhile, was working on another console, trying to activate the ship's weapons. "I've got something," she said after a moment. "It looks like a targeting system, but it's different. I've never seen anything like this." "Just get it online," Ria urged. "We're running out of time." Outside the ship, the probes were closing in, their sleek forms darting through the darkness like predatory creatures. As they neared the starship, they began to emit pulses of energy, probing the ship's defenses. "Shields up," Thorne called out as the first energy pulse struck the ship. The impact reverberated through the hull, but the shields held firm, absorbing the blow. Ilara's eyes narrowed as she focused on the targeting system. "Got it. Weapons online." Without hesitation, she activated the ship's defenses. A series of beams of concentrated energy shot out from the ship, striking the incoming probes with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, the probes exploded into fragments, their remains scattering across the void. But more were on the way, and Ria knew they couldn't keep this up forever. "Thorne, how's our escape route looking?" Ria asked, her eyes fixed on the display. "I'm plotting a course now," Thorne replied. "But these probes are relentless. We'll need to take them all out before we can make a clean jump." Ilara continued firing, her hands moving with practiced precision as she targeted the probes. But the strain was beginning to show. Each shot drained more of the ship's power, and the probes seemed endless. "Ria, we can't hold them off much longer," Ilara warned. "We need another plan." Ria's mind raced, searching for an alternative. Then an idea struck her. A risky, desperate idea, but it might just work. "Ilara, can you reprogram one of the probes to target the others?" Ria asked. Ilara blinked in surprise, then her eyes lit up with understanding. "It's a long shot, but it might be possible. I'll need to capture one intact." "Do it," Ria said, her voice steady. "Thorne, keep us in the fight for as long as you can." As Ilara worked to disable one of the incoming probes, Ria felt the weight of their situation bearing down on her. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of options, but they had something the probes didn't: ingenuity, creativity, and the will to survive. Finally, Ilara let out a triumphant shout. "I've got it. Reprogramming now." The captured probe's systems flickered and then realigned. Moments later, it turned on its own kind, firing a barrage of energy pulses that tore through the ranks of the remaining probes. The other probes, confused and disoriented, began to target each other, their coordinated attack falling apart. With the immediate threat neutralized, Thorn finished plotting their course, coordinates locked, preparing to jump to FTL. "Do it," Rhea ordered, her heart pounding. The ship's engines roared to life, and with a surge of power, the ancient starship leaped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the remnants of the probes far behind. As the stars blurred into streaks of light around them, the tension in the command center finally eased. They had survived yet another impossible situation, but the cost was high, and the journey ahead remained perilous. Rhea looked around at her team, Thorn, still focused on the controls, and Ilara, exhausted but triumphant. They had come so far, and there was no turning back now. "We're not done yet," Rhea said, her voice firm, "but we'll make it. Together." And as the ship hurtled through the vastness of space, they all knew that this was just the beginning of their true journey, a journey that would test their limits, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately decide the fate of humanity in the galaxy.